little bit speakery, but that's just headphones. But that's not an issue.
That's the radio vibe. Alright. Good day, everyone. Welcome to part 3 of this ongoing little podcast series, Stories from the Inside. If you didn't see the previous part, don't worry. You don't have to be caught up. As you might know, I am interviewing my friends and today my brother about their school experience, and to see if they have any stories. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Adam Harper. I'm a junior in Maryland, junior in high school in Maryland. That's important. And I've been in public schooling my entire life. I'm straight A student, not to toot my own horn, toot toot. I've taken a couple of AP classes. I'm very involved in extracurricular activities. Yeah, that's a general synopsis of my academic life.
You should be able to give some special insight into this stuff then. All right, let's get into it. So first off, give me a general, your school experience. Elementary school, middle school, high school, anything you find interesting or important?
General synopsis. That's a tricky question. It's a lot of years to recall.
That's fine. Take your time.
I would say overall positive, informative. Can you give me 1 second?
Yeah. Continue.
Okay. Repeat the question.
So tell me about your school experience, high school, middle school, and elementary school, whatever.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll go chronologically. So in elementary school, my experience, I would say, would be overall positive. I made a lot of good friends that time. It wasn't really like a learning time, because you don't really learn that much in elementary school. You learn like basics, like ABC 1, 2, 3. But really what I learned in elementary school was friendships and how important some friendships were and how finite other friendships were. There was a lot of friends that I had made friends with one week and wasn't friends with the next week, or was friends with all through elementary school and had no contact with the rest of my life. But all those people that I've come in contact with in elementary school, they all have left some form of impact on me, whether minimal or large. So yeah, I would say like in elementary school, really what I learned and my experience through that was positive and very socially centered. In middle school, I would say it was also socially centered, but it was a pretty good balance between social and academic. And socially, what I learned was that I was not necessarily a popular kid. I wasn't anyone's first pick for anything in particular. And in that time, I really learned how to be a lone wolf, in a sense. I use quotes for that phrasing. Because a lot of the times I had to do things by myself. Didn't have too many friends, which allowed me to focus a lot on my academics. And during middle school is when I really excelled and started learning a good work ethic and learned a lot of core building blocks that I would later build upon in high school. I also started doing clubs and band all the way through middle school, both of which I very much enjoyed and were a great way to make friends and to give myself more knowledge of how to handle social interactions and how to just come out of my shell, you could say. Which will bring me right into high school, where I've been a part of numerous clubs, to name a few: the Drama Club, my Strategic Games Club, a couple of humanitarian clubs such as Leo Club and National Society of, nope, wrong one.
Honor Society.
National Honor Society. Thank you. And through that, I've made friends, all of those clubs, and have learned so many valuable life lessons. It's not like book smart stuff, it's life lessons. And that's something that you don't learn through regular school. You learn that through the extra stuff that you do after school, or the friends that you hang out with after school. And that's where I feel like school is most important, and it's something that has been lost through digital learning, is that interaction between peers, and learning social skills, and from your peers life skills that you don't otherwise learn through school, because for some reason we don't have home ec anymore. But high school has been a road trip so far. It's had ups and downs. It's had lots of very crazy moments in it. Too many that I could sum up in the time we have together. But yeah, I would say that overall, my entire education experience has been relatively positive and very informative, on the whole. That was a lot of a lengthy explanation.
That's good.
I missed stuff, but yeah.
You responded very differently to my other two guests, but that's good. That's fine. I like the different viewpoints, and I can definitely actually your school story sounds a bit like my school story. Having a lot of friends in middle school, becoming the lone wolf, and just kind of accepting your role in high school.
Just embrace it.
Just embrace it.
No use trying to change some things.
So, tell me about your best teacher and what made them so good.
Oh, so this is a tough question, because I'm thinking back to my third grade teacher. Okay, I do have a couple. I'll list off a couple real quick. I had my third grade teacher, Miss Carrick. She was so nice, and she was very helpful. So if you ever had a question in her class, it didn't go unanswered. Like, it wasn't just like, we went over that, moving on. It was like, okay, let's revisit this topic and let's talk about it. And in that class, even though it was a third grade class, and like I said earlier, we didn't really learn a lot through elementary school. It was a very helpful class, and she just gave off such a nice energy that it made me want to go to school. And I think it's where I really started developing my love for school and my passion for school was because of that teacher. And because she was so helpful all the time and so happy, and it was a pleasure to go to school and see her every day. Jumping forward to middle school, my band teacher, Mr. Osterly, same vibe as Miss Carrick, same vibe as my third grade teacher. He was just so nice every day, always cheerful, and just radiated this love of learning that he passed on to students. And he made learning and band a fun thing. Band is often seen as a kind of nerdy, geeky, not the popular thing to do.
Sure.
But whenever I was in Mr. Osterly's class, I was didn't even think about what other people thought or how other people viewed band. It was just this is a place where we can all come together and be creative and make beautiful, beautiful melodies. And it was just great. The whole experience was just great. And that was the highlight of my day. And I only had him every other day, but every other day was the best day ever, And then by far, well, not by far, but I'm going to give him the title just because of who he is. But my engineering teacher through high school, Mr. Kevin Webster, is just amazing. So I've had him 3 years consecutively. I had him my freshman year, my sophomore year, and my junior year, and I will have him again, hopefully, my senior year. Mr. Webster is he's such a charming old man. We would always be bad in his class, but he never really got mad at us for it. I remember on countless occasions he would say, hey, so the school says you're not supposed to do this, all right? And I have to say to you, you can't do this. But if you do this, I'll turn my back. And he said that so many times throughout my 3 years with him. It's like a slogan at this point.
God, I love that.
That, and I don't think anybody has ever failed his class, because people love the class because he's a great teacher. He helps you get all of the information down. And engineering, contrary to popular belief, is not an easy subject. Specifically, I had an electronics class this past semester that worked with concepts that were way above most of our pay grades. And at no point did Mr. Webster say, we've already gone over this, review your notes, we're moving on. He always would say, he would ask us, do you have any questions? And if nobody answered, he would go, great, we're moving on. But if somebody had a question, we spent the next 15, 20 minutes working on that one question. So make sure everybody in the class got it. And as somebody who is like, stuff kind of clicks for them easily, I found myself learning more stuff the second time than I learned the first time. It was the same material, same way he taught it, but I learned more. And it's just such it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense at all. But like Mr. Webster, he's just got this air of smartness. He's like a mad scientist. And he just compels you to learn, and you just do it. And it's great.
That's great. I'm very glad that we've heard a lot of stories from North Carolina High School. Don't worry, we've referred to the school many times. We've heard a lot of different stories. I'm very glad that we have a lot of very good teachers in the school, at least from the perception of students. So tell me about, on the flip side, tell me about your worst teacher and why they were just that bad.
My worst teacher. I can think of a teacher I haven't even had, but I already know I don't like them.
Oh. I'd like to do that.
I'll just say the current band teacher at North Carolina High School is less than reputable. I haven't had him, so I can't give an honest review of him as a teacher. Bad teachers. I haven't had too many bad teachers. I've had strict teachers. I've had teachers that make me want to pull my hair out, but they haven't really been bad per se.
Just different.
A different kind of teaching. I'm really delving deep into the pits of my memory. I had a science teacher in 6th grade. Can't remember her name. She kind of sucked. She taught. She had a really annoying voice, which didn't help with me learning anything. And she rushed through material like it was nothing. But I mean, she wasn't really that bad of a teacher. All in all, that are my memories just skewed of her. Like it could be either, to be honest.
I was gonna say, based on like what you've said, that's one of the qualities that would make a bad teacher. It's just rushing through material.
Yes. And my pre-calculus teacher, just last semester, in fact, she rushed through material like it was nothing. And that's like stuff clicks for me, and I like to say that I'm not horrible at math. But let's just say that class was not my strong suit in the slightest. Her teaching style was not compatible with my learning style at all. But I can't say she was a bad teacher, because she did offer numerous times to for us to ask her questions. She offered extra help after school. I mean, she gave us plenty of avenues. She gave me plenty of avenues to learn the material again and for it to click. But I'm a very busy person, so that never really worked for me. I couldn't dedicate much extra time after school. But I mean, I can't really say that she was my worst teacher ever. I don't know if I have a worst teacher ever. I've gotten pretty lucky.
That's good. That's very good. So were you in any gifted student programs, and what was your experience with that?
In elementary school, I don't remember what it was.
I know you were, because I was, and we were both in it.
Yeah. I don't remember what it was called. I remember my teacher's name was Miss Wiley. But I don't remember what the program was called.
Highly able program. HAP.
Well, I'm glad that you remember that.
I remember it.
That makes the interview flow much better, that we actually have a word for it. As far as my experience with it, at the time, it felt like a waste of time. It felt like, it was like, why am I doing this when all of my friends are in the other English class? Like, it just felt like a more advanced English class at the time. I remember we analyzed poetry and like different works of literature. And I was like, at no point in my life am I going to be reading things. Little did I know that I would later become an avid reader, who would then analyze everything that they read constantly. Which, Miss Wiley, I blame you for that. But it's not a bad blaming. That's good. It's a good thing.
Oh yeah.
I enjoy analyzing texts now, which would make my current English teacher very happy to hear. Overall, my views of the program wasn't negative at all. I think I made a couple friends through it. If you can't tell by now, a lot of my schooling and my views of it do tie into the social aspects of it. Sorry, I had an orthodontist appointment yesterday.
Oh, boy,
but the social aspects of school life do have a considerable impact on my view of different schooling programs and school in general.
As it should, I say. I mean, half of school is interacting with other students and teachers. So you should
Precisely.
There should be an element of it, yeah. So did you, well, I know the answer to this, but did you take any AP classes in high school, and what was your perception?
I've taken a couple AP classes. My perception has been the same, which is, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Why do I hate myself? Why am I taking this class? But overall, I guess I would say that it's not bad. You definitely need to allocate a significant amount of time to the class. I'm in a AP class this semester that has me reading a textbook, reading nearly an entire chapter every single night, except for weekends, which is, needless to say, extremely stressful. But thinking back to my AP class that I had last year, that was a very enjoyable class. I had a really fun teacher who was he was this older gentleman that made really, really, really bad jokes about government and politics.
Yes.
He tried to be funny. Sometimes he was funny. I will grant him that. But oftentimes it was like, oh my gosh, just give me homework to do. I don't want to listen to this. But AP classes, if you have the right group of people and you have the right teacher, they can be a very good learning experience.
What do you mean right group? It's the same 20 kids every time.
You know what's funny is, so last year I took AP Government and Politics, and then this year I'm taking AP World History, and half of the class is the same as it was when I took AP Government and Politics.
Let me tell you my experience of 4 AP classes in one semester, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same kids. Like, I had some of the same kids in every class. Actually, one girl, we had the exact same schedule. We were taking the exact same classes at the exact same time, the exact same order.
Funny that you mentioned that, because one of my friends, we have 3 out of 4 classes together.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun if you're friends with the
person. we had 2 classes together last semester, back to back, and then this semester we have 3 classes together, which I think is just really, really funny.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't think I've shared this story yet. What's the best AP experience? I would say AP World. I really liked the teacher, and it was just a fun class, fun to learn, because I like world history. Okay. How did your schools handle conflict and psychology issues, bullying, stuff like that?
So I guess I'll do this the same way I did earlier: elementary, middle, high school. In elementary school, there was constantly an anti-bullying campaign going on, and from my view and my social position on the popularity meter of elementary school, bullying wasn't that much of an issue in my elementary school. Most of the time, people just seemed content with sticking in their friend groups and just hanging out with their friends during school and after school and whatever. In middle school, I never experienced it firsthand, but I know that there were numerous fights that broke out. Gossip spread like wildfire. Mm-hmm. And it was always this. And this was also when school shootings became, I won't say more popularized, but they became more prevalent. Mm-hmm. And so there was always that air of scared, whether it be from your classmates or from an exterior source. I know I got bullied a bit in middle school, being heavier set. I know lots of other friends that got into some tussles in middle school. I know lots of people that felt ostracized in middle school. And that school didn't really do much psychologically for the students. I mean, it was white brick walls. You did your classes, and you were told don't fail your classes, otherwise you get held back.
We had some orange.
There was like 3 streaks of orange in the entire school.
Yeah.
If there was a psychology room or like a therapy room, like a school therapist, I never saw it. I never heard about it. Generally low marks at that middle school. At high school, I know that there's still some issues as far as the psychology department. I know that we have one at the high school. I know that I've talked to a couple of people who have gone there and have said that they've been helped, which is a good thing. Bullying isn't quite as bad as it was in middle school. It's a different monster in high school. In high school, it really feels more like you're not gonna get hit. You're not going to get in a fight with somebody, but people will ruin your reputation. They will spread gossip, but you won't know about the gossip. So the gossip will start at the beginning of the month. You won't learn about it to the end of the month, and by that point, it's so far spread out that you have to live with it, and then you have to deal with whatever it is, and there's no way to really stop it for another like 3 or 4 months until people forget about it. And like in middle school, gossip spread, but it never really stuck. But like in high school, they're like, someone tells you some gossip, you remember it, because a lot of it's juicy gossip. I do know that there was actually, going back to physical altercations, There was a month or two where there was at least one fight every week, if not more. Thankfully, I was able to steer clear of most of those, but I've witnessed a few, and luckily they never really got too far out of hand. I know there was a couple of times where people had to be sent to the hospital because of fights at school, but most of the time teachers came and they broke it up pretty effectively.
Good. That's good. So, did your school do anything in terms of equity? And because both my other guests didn't know what equity meant, it's basically racism. Was there racism and segregation in the school? Did the school do anything about it?
Racism, no. I think I can't remember back in elementary school. Kids that age aren't really racist. I'm a believer, if we're going to talk about beliefs real quick, I'm a believer that racism is taught. It isn't something that we're born into. We're not born being racist. And when you're that young, you don't really think about skin tone or anything like that. In middle school, I know that there were a couple of times that slurs got thrown around. I know there were a couple of fights that broke out because of it. But I'm pretty sure that it wasn't a huge issue. I know it was more of an issue in middle school than it was in high school, because people were learning these racial slurs and using them without knowing the history behind them and whatnot.
Yeah.
In high school, though, racially, no, I don't think that there's a lot of segregation. Now, I know that at my high school, there's a divide between people of hetero and homo, we'll say. People that are LGBTQIA+, and people that are not. There are a lot of people that are not accepting of LGBTQ plus people. And there have been rumors spread relating to that. There have been fights that have broken out relating to issues like that. Although the school itself has allowed for a Gender Sexuality Alliance, or GSA, club to be started at the school. And while there have been a couple of threats towards the GSA, no threats have been carried through. And the school, there was a GSA meeting one day, and the school made sure there was a police officer there to ensure the safety of those students. And for that, I do commend the school for their proactivity in dealing with that situation. But to get back to the actual question, racially,
that's covered. Yeah, that
okay.
LGBTQ is covered in the equity question.
Good. I'm glad I stayed on topic for once. Racially, I haven't seen many racial issues. Most people there, while from the bayou and the back roads, are relatively accepting of different races, and there haven't been many slurs thrown around or aggression towards any group in particular. I do know that there are some people that talk about, I guess, don't know if I'm the politically correct wording. I guess Hispanic. If I'm wrong with that wording, I apologize. Hispanic students. There's a large population of Hispanic students at the high school, and there have been times where people make passive comments like, "Oh, these gosh darn Hispanics overrunning whatever," and yeah, there are a lot of them, but most of them are there just to get an education, like anybody else is. I don't think the school has done anything against those kinds of things. But then again, those are passing comments between students. They're not widespread drama like other issues are.
Mm-hmm. And actually, we haven't talked about this yet in this little series, but I just thought of this. We probably should have this conversation as well in regards to equity. What about in relation to gender? Did you see any sort of
I would
sexism?
definitely, elementary through middle, nothing. I mean, as far as my interaction, there was no gender issues. I know in high school, many transgender, I use that as an umbrella term. The transgender community at my high school mostly live sheltered. A lot of them have not come out publicly as being transgender. But I also know a few that have. With the creation of the GSA, it has brought about a confidence in some students that they didn't have before. A confidence to be their true self, to come out as queer or to come out as transgender. I think that's a great thing for the people that have, and I think that that's awesome that they're living their true selves.
Yeah, that is great.
And I know there have been a couple of times that people have been called gender slurs, which I won't say, very aggressively, for lack of better terminology, from these less accepting students. There are some students that are so deep rooted in, and I use air quotes, Southern ideals, that they're so unaccepting of transgender people and LGBTQIA plus people. They fall in that group, LGBTQ people. But they're so unaccepting of this different viewpoint that they go to these extremes, using slurs and threats. It's heartbreaking. As somebody who has remained outside of the firing and outside of the turmoil, watching this go on, and you feel helpless to help these people, your friends, people that you've grown up with, and there's nothing that you can do to help them, nothing that you feel you can do to help them that will have any meaningful impact. Like, sure, you can fight a bully, you can get in a fist fight, but what is it really going to do for them, right? It's just going to cause other issues that don't resolve anything.
It perpetuates the cycle of violence.
Exactly. And as we've heard many times, violence doesn't solve anything, which is debatable, but that's not the question you asked.
We're not getting into that.
No, I think that there's definitely a more of an issue with gender acceptance than there is with sexuality acceptance. And I think it's an issue that hopefully will be fixed as more generations pass through and more change happens globally.
I think we all hope for the change. Yeah. So
it's needed.
It is. It definitely is needed.
We've waited long enough.
We've waited long enough. We want
It's
our
time to revolt.
Don't
put that in the podcast.
Too late. We're recording. So a little more recent. We talked about this yesterday in Education in America. Governor Hogan is calling for schools to be reopened in March
1st.
What is your opinion of schools reopening?
I personally think that it is way too soon. I think that the fact that this virus is still a prevalent, I use air quotes, horror, or a prevalent issue, and it should not be ignored. It shouldn't be passed off as just, the flu. I remember back when we were first put into quarantine, a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's just like the flu," and it isn't. I was guilty of saying the same thing when it first started, but as studies have come out, this is way more than just the common cold or the flu. I think that we need to wait. If I was in Governor Hogan's shoes, which I would not want to be, he has a very, very difficult job with so many difficult decisions he has to make on the daily. But if I was in his shoes, I would wait until the majority of the population either had the first vaccination, or the second, or even the second vaccination, or the virus had run its course entirely. Another reason I'm opposed to schools reopening is that they aren't testing the kids that are going back. I know that recently freshmen have gone back to the high school, and as far as I know, they did not conduct tests or require tests to be conducted on students re-entering the building, which I think is stupid, personally.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, but that doesn't necessarily go back to Hogan. I feel like that's more of a county issue.
Yeah.
More of a district issue, because students, no matter what age, are going to lie. At least at some point, they're gonna lie. And especially in this scenario, put yourself in the shoes of a student right now. So they have been isolated from their friends, or at least the majority of their friends, since March of last year. So coming up on a full 365 days without getting to see some of their friends. So when it's put out there, hey, we're going to open up schools by March 1st, and we're going to start bringing kids back at the beginning of February or whenever different schools are doing it. For me, it's beginning of February. I just lost my train of thought.
Schools are opening.
Schools are opening. Beginning of February. Yeah. So if you hear that schools are opening and you haven't seen your friends in forever, you're going to go back to see your friends, because like we've said before, social interaction is one half of the schooling experience. Arguably the more important half, depending on your viewpoint.
Yeah.
So kids, knowing full well that they may be sick and experiencing symptoms, might go back because they want to see their friends. And they're thinking, oh, I'm young, I'm healthy, it'll be all right, and they're instead not considering the greater ramifications that, oh, my best friend Tim has a grandmother who is a high risk person. Like they could get this, and if they got it, they would most likely pass away. And I feel like students being deprived from human interaction for so long are getting antsy, a term I've heard a lot, feral. And they want to get out, and they want to go and live the lives they were living pre-quarantine. And I think that hasn't been factored into reopening schools. And then again, a simple solution to this would be conducting a screening of each student, not having a student fill out a survey, because you can lie on a survey, but actually setting up a day either at the school or at the community health center and screening the kids that will be coming back, checking them for symptoms, running tests as best that they can, depending on the income of the area, and just doing all that they can to reassure people that these kids that are going back and are going to be interacting with other kids and with teachers and faculty and staff, the kids and everybody needs to be ensured that nobody will get this. And it's not 100% guaranteed. A lot of people are asymptomatic carriers. But there needs to be at least a little bit of reinsurance or assurance that this is safe. And I feel like we don't have that now. And I know that kids will be wearing masks when they go back, and they will be socially distanced. But at some point, some kid is not going to follow the directions. They're going to take their mask down when they go to the bathroom or they go outside, even if there's people around them. And it's going to happen. And it might not. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
We all hope.
But I have a fear that I won't be wrong. And if we see another outbreak, say end of March, beginning of April, something like that, and we're put into another full year or half a year, hopefully half a year if we get sent back into another quarantine, I just think that it'll set people over the edge or could cause some unpleasant things to happen, being that the governor and the government and local governments have let it happen in the first place.
I can speak as someone who is currently on a college campus that I had to get the test. I had to get the test before going back. I couldn't go back without a negative test. We're fully masked. I'm not allowed to take it off unless I'm in my dorm. And it's working. Like, our cases are 0, I think, last time I heard. So it can work. You just have to actually do the stuff.
Right.
I agree with you. They should be tested. The kids should be tested. Everyone should be tested.
Right. And it can work in that capacity. But I also like to ask you, how many kids, or you might not know the answer to this, but how many kids are actually going to learn in the classroom? Or actually not kids at this point. How many students are going to learn in the classroom?
Basically zero. Yeah.
Basically zero.
Yeah.
So you're limiting your interaction. Like, you're on campus, but you're not on campus. I use air quotes for that phrasing.
No, I think
so. Like,
this sort of going back, but still having the remote computer learning, I think that works for college. It doesn't work for high school. You're on a much smaller scale. Like, the college campus, right? You got the dorm buildings, you got the school buildings, and you got all the area in between them. There's plenty of space to socially distance and still, like, see people. But with a high school, you're stuck in one building. Everyone's breathing the same air. Everyone's stuck in there for the next 8 hours.
8 hours.
That's not going to work. It just... And we need to wait.
Right, and I think being in that confined space is what is going to be the tipping point with COVID cases in my area or in areas that are having a similar situation as what I'm going through. And I think that, like, if we had outdoor classrooms, if we set up tables and seats and desks out on, like, the football field or the tennis court or just outdoor spaces where the air can circulate better, I feel like that could help. It may not, but at least you're out of that confined space. and you can distance yourself better. So say for instance you have 500 kids that are going to go back into the school to learn. They're not going to be doing it from home anymore. You have 250 learn, or 200, we'll say 200, learn inside the building, and 300 learn outside the building. And by doing that, you limit the amount of kids that are in the school, but you're still having kids there, and you're not having the distractions of home life. They can't check their phone, which is just sitting on the other table, whenever they want to, and scroll through TikTok in the middle of class, which is what I do every day. I'll call myself out on that. But I feel like just doing that, just having the student body, spread across a larger area, would help to reduce the contact between students and faculty and teachers and all of that, and keep cases low, if not non-existent.
Of course, there's also the issue of buses. I never even thought about that the first time I had this conversation.
Yeah, I know the way that they were doing buses was, I can't remember if they were staggering or if they were doing every other seat. So those two scenarios. So staggering would be, so you have 2 rows on the bus, and you have people. You have one person in row 1, and then one person in row 2, like in the first set, and then you skip the next seats, and then you do another set of people, then working backwards.
You could do like 1, 4.
Yeah, or you have it go like a zigzag pattern. So when you walk on the bus, you have a kid on your right, and then you go to the next, and then you have a kid on your left, and then you go to the next, and a kid on your right, and it goes back and forth. And they're sitting, I think, one kid to the seat, but I don't know if they're cleaning afterwards or how extensively they're cleaning.
Yeah.
Another thing.
Forever.
I mean, it can work.
It can.
But you have to be diligent every day. Whenever you have a kid on that bus, you've got to clean that bus. And buses are big, so that's a lot of time and resources spent cleaning. One thing I know I heard rumors of, but I don't know if they're 100% true, was that there are monitors on the bus as well, like 1 or 2 adult volunteers that are making sure kids stay masked on the bus as well, and are not having any contact with any other students on the bus. If there isn't any adult monitors on the buses, then what's to stop kids from taking their mask off or hopping over a seat? The bus driver can't monitor the 25 kids he has on the bus and drive safely.
Yeah, exactly. It's their job to drive them to school.
It's their job to get them to school safely.
Yeah. I think the consensus between 2 of us is it's not time. We gotta wait.
Yeah.
But let's go to another question. This one is a very recent. This is a little more personal. This is a very recent thing, but I feel like I need to talk about this. So, for the past month or 2, a while, for the past while, the school has been debating cutting some majors and minors and cutting staff and rearranging basically how this school works. They just made the call yesterday or Saturday. They are going to cut the majors and minors. They've cut theater, film, media studies, they've cut art, they've cut music, they've cut a lot of languages. At this school, there was a very massive uproar, myself included. We are a liberal arts college after all. Like, what's the point of having liberal arts if it's not arts? But I'll make this more of a general question. What is your opinion? Do you think arts are important to have in school? I think that's a fair enough question for
I think it's very interesting that you bring up this question, because in one of my classes, literally earlier today, I read an article about he is a permanent writer for the New York Times, which means he writes an entire column every day for the New York Times, stating the importance of liberal arts and the humanities in regards to public life and economic life as we know it. There were numerous sources that this author cited stating that having a background in the humanities, which is like arts, history, history, arts, stuff like that, creative, constructive, stuff. Well, just stuff. It can have a profoundly positive impact on the way that people perform in the workplace. So, and really what it ties back to is if you have a history working in an artsy field or with the humanities, you learn how to work as a group, and you learn how to work well as a group, and how to brainstorm ideas, and all of these other strategies that you don't learn through math class, you know? Like, yeah, in math class, you learn that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but you don't know how to really work as a group. You don't really know how to read the room and how to gauge the interests of your teammates or gauge their mood, which in the workplace, speaking from experience, it's very important to know how your coworkers are feeling and what they're thinking, because that can determine how you interact with them, how they interact with customers, how they perform different tasks. What a lot of people, I feel like, don't realize is that emotions play a huge role in the workforce, in the workplace. If you're in a good mood, then you will work better. And I think that liberal arts, it teaches us how to tell whether or not we're working with somebody happy or working with somebody sad. And through that theory, liberal arts is so very important. Not only does liberal arts build these emotional skills and these social skills that are so important to working with large groups of people or small groups of people, it also taps into parts of your brain that help you to better convey ideas, as well as get better ideas. I know that when I was younger, I always loved art class, and I like I said before, I was in band for a while, and I feel like doing those activities helped me think more creatively when it comes to other avenues or other fields of study. I know that I have friends who are amazing artists. They write amazing stories, or they're so creative, and different things like different liberal arts type things. And they will call you out on your mood faster than you know that you're in a bad mood. Like they see you and they're like, something's up. What's up? And it's like, is something up? And they're like, oh yeah, something's up. And it's because they have that history of arts and liberal arts and humanities and stuff like that. So in the short term, yes, I think that the liberal arts are extremely important, and they should be required that people of all ages learn them, at least one aspect of them.
That's good. Very, very well thought out. Good response. Glad to hear it.
Thank you so much. I'll take my Oscar.
I don't know if you can tell, I'm so professional. Anyway, so I just have one final question left, and then I'll leave you to the rest of your day. Are there any other stories you'd like to tell the people, or any last words that you'd like to leave them with?
I'll do both. Can I do both? Am I allowed to do both?
Yeah, you can do both.
So I'll give you a story. First off, I'll try to make it quick. I have a couple I could tell, but I'll tell you a fond one of mine. So I've had this friend since kindergarten. We met in kindergarten, and we were friends all the way through 5th grade, which is the end of my elementary school's grading. And then we lost contact through middle school. I had a class with their father, but I never really got to see them, this friend. And my 9th grade year, I had no contact with them either. But then we had one class in 10th grade together, and we started back right where we left off, and we've been staying in touch ever since. I consider them a very close friend of mine. And as much as I'm giving you all this context, so I can then tell you that they are also one of the, I won't say dumb, but they are not the brightest when it comes to academics. They very frequently are left baffled at concepts. And that's not a bad thing. That is by no stretch of the imagination a bad thing. But the two of us were in an engineering class with my favorite teacher, Kevin Webster. And this concept was not clicking with this friend of mine. And they called Mr. Webster over and was like, Mr. Webster, I don't get this. I've been staring at this paper for the entirety of class. I do not get it. And my teacher, he just said, did you ask Adam? I think we were sitting near each other, but not like right next to each other. And my friend was like, can I? And Mr. Webster was like, of course, if you're not getting it, go ask him. And of course I'm eavesdropping on this conversation because I'm nosy like that. And so my friend scoots over their wheelie chair and they're like, hey, Adam, can I ask you a question? I'm like, of course. In the next 30 minutes, I got to teach this friend this concept again. And you might be hearing this and thinking, well, why didn't your teacher just teach him? Because by doing that and saying, go ask your peer, both my friend and me both got to learn again. Like I said before about Mr. Webster teaching so good that I learned things I didn't even realize I had learned. And this was one of those instances. So, fun little science fact, you learn the most parts of your brain are activated when you are teaching somebody else. You perceive information better, you learn it better, and it forms strong neural pathways when you're teaching people. And so by teaching my friend this concept over again, it cemented it in my brain. And because I had known them for so long, I knew how to teach them in a way that they would understand it effectively. And like and to this day, I look back at these moments so fondly because now this friend of mine they come to me all the time with questions, and we sit down and we get to work through all these questions together, and they leave and they know what to do, and I know what to do, and stuff that neither of us know, we work through it and it works, and we both come out of it more intelligent people. And I just think that that is such a amazing part of school, and I think that that is something that I hope that more people get to experience someday through school or through the workforce or parenting or whatever it is that you do with your life. And it's a humbling experience, but it's also a very much enjoyable experience as well. And then lastly, I'll leave you with just a few words, because I'm sure that I've already taken up plenty of time. To live in the moment. So if you have a bunch of stuff lined up for the month or for the week or whatever, just take it one thing at a time. There have been a couple of times, if you can't tell by now, I like to use anecdotes. But there have been a couple of times where I have a day of nothing and then a day jam-packed the next day. But they're all events that have to happen on that day, like work or a trip somewhere. They have to happen on that day. I can't move it a day ahead. And during those moments where I feel so stressed and it's just like, why can't I do this now? Why can't I just get this off my plate when I have nothing that's going on right now? You just have to take some time and just relax and just be in the moment and realize that, hey, you can't worry about the future. You have to just live in the moment. Just take it one step at a time, one thing at a time. And I will stick to this my entire life, and I will swear by it. If you're stressed, if you feel overwhelmed, just work on it one assignment at a time. Don't think, oh, I have to do this. Just say, I have to get this done. And then once you finish that, you can go, I have to get this done. And I find that it helps you focus on that one task if you're just thinking about that one task. And it is just so helpful, and it'll get you miles in life.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your stories and your experience.
Certainly.
I hope you have a wonderful day. I will talk to you soon enough.
I hope that you also have a wonderful evening. Make sure that you eat and stay hydrated.
I will.
Both are very important.